what's up guys, I'm Ben with Rough Country, and we're here with our JK today. Of course, this is a 2007 model, and there's been quite a few changes for the 2012. One of which is the routing of the exhaust, which is causing some problems in the off-road industry because it's limiting down travel. The drive shaft's coming into contact with the exhaust pipe. Well, we've got these new exhaust spacers in our product line for the JK. Take a look at our video, the installation of these spacers, and get yours ordered today.
Okay, the first step, we're going to disconnect our drive shaft. We're going to do that while the JK is on the ground because we don't want it to bind when we're trying to remove it. As you can see here at full droop, it would be bound up pretty heavily. So what we're going to do with our drive shaft disconnected, we're going to tie it up out of the way with zip ties. And now we're going to remove this little cross member that connects from frame rail to frame rail. There's only 3 bolts, so just back those out and drop the cross member down, set it aside, let's get it out of the way. Our next step is to loosen this clamp that's a coupler where the 2 pipes come into one. And now he's removing an exhaust stop that's used in the manufacturing process. So it only lets those pipes slide so far. Now with that little stop off and the exhaust clamp loose, we're going to remove the bolts from these flanges for the pipes coming off the exhaust manifold. Once you've got these bolts loose, you can slide back the flange. And we're going to move over to the driver's side, do the same thing. There's not a lot of room over here, so be patient. These quarter turns will eventually get that bolt out. And now that you've got both bolts loose and shortly will be both removed, you'll slide that clamp back. You can already see it's loose. Once you've got those 2 out, you can actually push the exhaust back and leave yourself a gap for your new spacers to go in. Okay, now we've got our bolts out, our exhaust pushed back, and we've got ample room to put in our spacers, which is our next step. Now, once you start installing these spacers, you don't have to immediately put in bolts because leverage will hold them in place. There we've got our driver's side on. Now we're going to slide in the passenger side. And now that both spacers are in place, we're going to install the bolts through the flanges. Now, to install these bolts, we don't throw an impact wrench or a socket on it. You basically just tighten them down by hand until you get all 4 in. Then you can go back and you're going to tighten down with a wrench. Now the reason we recommend using a wrench, if you put an impact gun on here and you snap that off in this soft aluminum, you're not going to have a good day trying to get those bolts extracted. So we definitely recommend just using a wrench, open-end wrench or a gear wrench, something that you can tighten those down with. Also, you need to come back after 500 miles, 300 miles, somewhere in that range, and make sure those are still tight because you don't want any leaks or you don't want to lose a spacer while on the trail or traveling down the road. So just make sure you come back and retighten these. Now we've got our spacers in. The bolts are all tight. We'll go back to our exhaust clamp where the Y pipe hits, and we'll tighten that back down. Once that bolt is tight and the clamp is secure, you can go ahead and reinstall your drive shaft. Now, if you'll notice there's some paint dots on there, you want to make sure those are aligned when you reinstall your drive shaft so you don't have any wobble from the drive line. Now, these bolts you will zip down with an impact wrench if you have one handy or a torque wrench. Now, this is a shot of the isolator on the exhaust hanger. Make sure that's straight instead of pushed backwards. Last but not least, you install your cross member back. There's 3 bolts. You'll zip those in with an impact wrench. The installation is complete. You can see now you've got ample clearance there on the drive shaft and the cross member at full droop.